Greetings and welcome to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. In this video we'll be doing a review of the Musket and Pike Dual Pack from GMT Games and designer Ben Hull. This features the first two games in that series, This Accursed Civil War and Sweden Fights On. Now if you're not familiar with Musket and Pike, it's a tactical war game system that puts you in command of 17th century armies during the age of pike and shot warfare. If you're looking for a game that delivers both historical accuracy and engaging tactical choices, you're in for a treat. But like any good simulation, it comes with a few challenges. So let's dive in and see what makes Musket and Pike a standout title for fans of historical war games. Let's talk about theme. One of the most impressive aspects of Musket and Pike is how well it captures the feel of 17th century tactics. This was a period when generals had to contend with slow communications, unpredictable unit behavior, and the complexity of combined arms warfare. The rules effectively bring these elements to life in a way that's both immersive and thought-provoking. Command and control, unlike modern war games where you micromanage every unit, in Musket and Pike, you're constrained by the order system. Wing commanders issue broad orders, like charge or rally, that dictate how units behave during their activations. This captures the challenge of battlefield control during an era when verbal orders had to travel across the din of battle. Formations and facing. Units have to face specific directions, which determines their front, flanks, and rear. This adds an extra layer of realism and also forces you to think like a 17th century general, where maintaining proper formation was paramount. Heavy infantry, light infantry, and cavalry each have their unique formation rules, further differentiating the feel of each unit type. Fog of war. The unpredictable preemption and continuation system means you're never quite sure when an opponent's wing will activate next. You're constantly forced to adapt to changing battlefield conditions, just like real commanders of the era. Now let's look at the core mechanics that drive the game, such as the sequence of play, orders, and the combat resolution systems. Sequence of play. Turns are structured into phases that begin with initiative determination, wing activation, and then of course combat. Unlike many I go, you go games, the use of preemption means that your opponent might get the jump on you mid-activation, seizing control of the battle's flow. The order system means that each wing can only perform actions allowed by its orders, whether that's charge, make ready, receive charge, or rally. If you're used to total control over units, this system might feel restrictive at first, but it's a brilliant way to simulate how 17th century commanders had limited ability to adopt plans on the fly. Combat. Fire combat and close combat are your two main types of combat, and each have distinctive flavors. Fire combat relies on ranged musket volleys and artillery, while close combat represents brutal melee encounters. Units will degrade in formation and morale, becoming shaken or broken, often making those units ineffective before they're outright destroyed, which is a reflection of how units lost their nerve in this era rather than being annihilated. So what makes this a great simulation? Well, the Musket and Pike Battles series excels at evoking the feel of leading a 17th century army. There are three key elements that help it stand apart. First, friction of war. Your plans are never guaranteed. You're at the mercy of things like preemptions and continuation attempts and bad luck, leader casualties, etc. But that's the point. The game simulates the chaotic nature of 17th century warfare. Focusing on the formations. Heavy infantry, for example, just can't turn on a dime. Flank attacks are devastating, so you're constantly trying to protect your unit's flanks. Meanwhile, cavalry can intercept enemy movements, adding layers of decision-making. And then there are command constraints, representing the slow and uncertain nature of battlefield communications. This is arguably one of the best representations of command friction in any war game that I've played. Now let's talk about some of the challenges with the game, basically due to the complexity. So, as much as I love Musket and Pike, it's not without some hurdles. This is a game that's going to challenge you both mentally and mechanically. Some people think the rules are a little bit complex, and I would agree that they are somewhat complex, but they're very sensible, and you will pick them up fairly quickly through gameplay. There is a lot to remember, I would put it that way. I wouldn't necessarily say the rules are complicated, there are just a decent amount of them. And as far as markers go, now the stacking rules are very small. There isn't a lot of unit stacking. However, there are some markers, and so you could have several markers on a unit, and some of those may confuse some people, but they really aren't so bad. We're talking about things like shaken, broken, no continue, fired, and so on. Then there's the leader loss and replacement. And this isn't a complexity of rules issue. This is more like when the leader is eliminated, you roll to see if a replacement appears. And if one doesn't, that is a major blow to that wing's ability to act effectively. And this randomness, because it is based on a die roll, could frustrate some players that are used to having perfect control of their forces, because a leaderless wing is very vulnerable and also very incapable of performing offensive actions. So let's talk about the final verdict. Do I think Musket and Pike's battle series is worth your time? Absolutely. If you're looking for a tactical war game that forces you to think like a general, it's hard to beat. Now the focus is on your formations, your orders, and the friction of war that makes every battle feel kind of like a puzzle, but it's a puzzle that's grounded in the realities of the way wars were fought in the 17th century. Yes, the rules can be a little complex and occasionally a little fiddly, but for players who stick with it, the reward is one of the most engaging and thematically rich tactical war games, especially for this particular period that's out there. So I'd say it's a must-play for serious war gamers and a love letter to the era of pike and shot. If that's your passion, Musket and Pike belongs on your shelf. That's it for the review. If you found it helpful, hit the like button, subscribe for more war game content, and of course let us know in the comments which battle from the Musket and Pike series is your favorite, as well as anything else you might want to say. Until next time, may your pikemen hold steady and may your cavalry ride true. Thanks for watching.